Hello, losers, cool beans, and other lovable weirdos. You might have remembered last time in Mirror Forge I said when one door closes, another opens, and we are opening another door. But it has nothing to do with Mirror Forge. Today is more Mycorrhiza. We are going to open one of those other two doors waiting for us. I haven't even decided which door yet. This is like a total coin toss adventure. So, let's go hopefully find some more answers, but let's be real, we're probably going to end up with more questions. Okay, so before we chose this door, because it has little marks and I was intrigued, now we have the scratchy door and the middle door. Because, why would it be left in middle when it begins scratchy and middle? Okay, we are going to toss a coin, just not an actual coin. Heads for the middle door, tails for the scratchy door on the left. Toss a coin. It is tails! Okay, scratchy door. I choose you. Is there a kitty cat with lots of eyes? I find myself thinking about the interest of pets. Oh, pets. I find myself thinking about the cat in Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion. I shot awake, panting heavily, my clothes sticking to my skin due to all the sweat. The worst way to wake up. My eyes darted around the room, but everything was quiet. I seemed to be safe. A nightmare. Seems like I just had a nightmare. Just a dream. Just a dream. I couldn't remember it anymore, but it must have been horrifying. Chills were still running down my spine. It was just a dream. Just a nightmare. Nothing more. After calming down, I decided to take another look around the house. The fact that no one was here, even though the lights were on, was still nagging at the back of my mind. But I was more confident that I'd be able to find help now that it was daytime. I left the bedroom to retry the doors just in case. They were still locked. I just wanted to go home and take a shower. I smelled my clothes, and they, indeed, had started to smell slightly sour. This place seemed to have nothing left to offer. I'd be better off out in the streets now that it was daytime. If I wasn't missing my wallet, then I would be getting something to eat as well. I was starving. I left the house for the bright sunlight. The back street didn't seem so bad anymore. I found it to be rather cozy and quaint. I made my way down the path until I heard the faint sound of conversation in the distance. A weight lifted from my heart when I first glimpsed people walking around in a pedestrian area. There weren't many of them, and as I looked around I got the feeling that this was a rather small town. Trees and flowers were planted at regular intervals, which gave it more of a rural atmosphere. It didn't matter. I could finally ask for help. "Excuse me, could you tell me where I am?" The woman blinked at my approach. She frowned and scowled in my general direction. "This is Kajemhith." She looked uncomfortable talking to me, so I thanked her and let her be. Kajemhith? I had never heard of a town with that name. Where? How did I end up here? The thought of being somewhere I don't recognize scared me. How was I supposed to get back home if I didn't have the slightest idea where to go? Can't ask Google Maps, huh? I took a deep breath to calm myself down. My next best bet would be asking someone to allow me to make a call from their mobile phone. I approached an older man in a business suit. "Excuse me, may I use your phone? I'm a bit lost and would like to call a friend of mine so he can pick me up." His lips curled into a grimacing frown. Sorry, I'm in a bit of a hurry." I approached person after person, but I had no luck. No one wanted to lend an unkempt, half-dressed stranger their phone. As I made my way through a side street, I overheard two elderly women. "I heard of some violent incidents recently. Most got away with just a flesh wound, saying they were attacked by someone or something. Yeah, I heard that too. I wonder if it has anything to do with the pet disappearances. I heard of another cat that hadn't come back in several days. Oh, not the cats. I was so focused on the conversation that I almost ran into a girl. A very familiar-looking girl. I mumbled an apology until I realized that she had approached me on purpose. Hi. Hi. You need to call someone, right? She extended her hand and offered me her phone. How did you know? I've seen you asking people for one. She nervously shuffled her feet and glanced away. Thank you, I won't take long. I took her phone. It was a red flip phone with a small panda hanging from a strap. The top bar read, May's phone. Her background was set to a picture of herself in a pedestrian area. That place in the picture looked oddly familiar, but I was likely just imagining it. I brushed that aside and dialed a friend's number, but the call didn't go through. I tried it again, but the result was the same. Maybe their phone was turned off. I tried my parents' house, then my job's front desk, then my boss's personal cell. Each time the call failed. I was sure that I had the right numbers. Maybe the phone had a bad connection. It seems like the calls won't connect for some reason. Maybe you will have more luck trying a landline. My phone does act up sometimes. You might be right. Still, thank you. Unless you're about to offer me your landline, but considering previous doors, I have thoughts and opinions. I didn't want to hold her up any longer, so I gave her the phone back. After a rushed farewell, I wandered off. I wanted to quickly look for another way to get in contact with someone I knew. It occurred to me that I should have asked her for directions to the police station. I turned to look for her, but she had already vanished. As I made my way through town, I could definitely feel the tension in the air. Would you say you were making your way downtown, moving fast? Perhaps with a piano? She was right. Everyone was on edge. While I was passing by an alleyway, something caught my eye. They were too big to be rats. I couldn't really make anything out other than their eerie, glowing eyes. Ooh. Maybe it was a cat gang searching the trash for food. Apropos food, I was starving. But I couldn't possibly ask random people to feed me. You could if you were called Hamble, but you were called Scott, so no such luck. And since my wallet was missing, I didn't have any money on me to buy something. Though there were oddly tempting-looking plants growing nearby. Do not eat the mysterious plant in the creepy place you don't know how you got to. That is literally just the worst idea on so many levels. Buds fixed on thick stems were sticking out of the ground. Each plant was surrounded by a number of small mushrooms. Again with the mushrooms. As I stared at them, I felt a pull. Their strange appearance hypnotized me, and without me noticing, my feet inched closer and closer and closer. Oh, I was jokingly going to go for the bad idea, but oh, the mushrooms are like, no, you're making the choice we want. That ain't me. That mouse drift? Ooh, we are not in full control. Well, I guess we have to make the bad decision then. Bon appa, nope. I couldn't really think while hungry, and who knew how long it had been since I had eaten. So it was probably either this or starving. I dug in. Nom 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 nom. They didn't even taste that bad. Kind of grassy, but edible. Although it grew harder and harder to chew with every bite. Something red dripped on the ground. I soon realized that a liquid was coming out of my mouth. I couldn't tell if it was blood or the plant's juices. I find myself thinking about a no-sleep story I read like the other week. Crimson corn. Crimson corn. That's all you need. More started to pour out as I panicked and tried to figure out what was going on. While feeling around my mouth, I realized that it had become totally numb. Suddenly, a fleshy chunk fell into the red pool that had started to form before my feet. Was that my tongue? Okay, the crimson corn went a bit differently. My vision became blurry, and my stiff body hit the cold ground. Well, that was a short chapter. No. It was dark when I awoke. I could make out that I was still lying next to the plants. It seemed like no one had bothered to help me. What a surprise. I tried to get up, but I couldn't. My whole body was paralyzed. I felt a sudden sting traveling from my head to my feet, and the pain grew by the second. Something was happening to me. Ooh. Yeah, that doesn't look good, bud. That looks particularly not good. I'm sure it'll be fine, though. My hand! It was being bent into impossible positions. Not just my hand, my whole body. It was warping. But it seemed like it couldn't handle the transformation. My body writhed and snapped in two. Oh, there was a Crooked Man achievement. Well, what if we do give up? Oh, well. Let's try that again, shall we? Now I have a choice. Don't eat them. I broke away from the hypnotic pull of the plants. What was I thinking? It didn't matter how hungry I was. They may be poisonous. That's kind of best worst case scenarios, but hey. But my hunger was beginning to gnaw at my insides. My vision grew blurry. Who knew how long it had been since I had eaten? Suddenly I collapsed, and the world around me vanished. But we didn't eat the questionable plant. It was dark when I awoke. It seemed like no one had bothered to help me. I tried to get up, but I couldn't. My whole body was paralyzed from hunger. Something was shuffling by my ear. I felt the sniffing of an animal. Perhaps one of those cats I saw earlier. I couldn't bring myself to look. Cats, yes. It lost interest and walked past me towards the plants. I heard more follow. As they padded into view, I noticed that something was off about them. It must have been my mind playing tricks on me. My hunger was overwhelming. Why do I get the feeling it's not just your hunger that's overwhelming? Something about their bodies was wrong. They started to eat the plants. They were smacking rather loudly and made unnatural, fleshy sounds. Every now and then, one would pause and give off a low growl that didn't at all sound like a cat's. It was more like a slightly higher-pitched bear growl. After a while, the sound diminished, and I felt their presence vanish. I gathered my strength and forced myself to my feet. What had just happened? What were those creatures? The violent crimes that I had heard about earlier popped into my mind. My hands began to shake. What would have happened if I hadn't been paralyzed, and if they had noticed that I was still alive? I took a cautious look around. Most house lights were still lit. I mustn't have been out for long. Once again, my body gave off a deep growl. It was as if my stomach was eating itself. I had to get some food or else I was in danger of collapsing again. Should I ask someone living nearby for help, or should I take another look around town? Well, I don't think they're going to, so let's take a look around. Well, maybe we can do both, though. I was sure they'd turn me away, but I was desperate. This was an emergency, after all. Uncertainly, I approached the closest house and knocked. I was surprised when the door actually opened. Oh. Hi there, come on in. How nice of you to visit. Before me stood a fashionably dressed woman with a big smile on her face. She seemed welcoming, but her movements were rather stiff and almost mechanical. It was as if they had been practiced over and over again. The hat, the scarf, and the bag around her shoulder suggested that she was just about to leave. She seemed to notice my confused look. Oh, the bag. Don't worry about it. I just think it suits me, so I've gotten used to wearing it around the house. That seemed unpractical, but I guess she was very conscious about her appearance. Now, come in. Everyone's already inside. Do we know each other? She took another thorough look at me and seemed to realize that we did, in fact, not know each other. Ah, you must be a new neighbor then. I'm Sabrina. Come in. She disappeared before I could correct her. I hesitantly followed her inside. On my way in, I saw a pet food bowl near the entrance with some of the strange-looking plants in it. Huh, she'd been feeding those to her pet. I peeked into the living room. A man leapt to his feet as he saw me and stretched his big hand out to me. His coat suggested that he was active in a scientific field and that he had gotten here right after work. His other arm hung down limply. Hi there. It's nice to meet you. I'm Frederick. How are you doing? I reciprocated his firm handshake and he cheerfully gestured me to take a seat beside him. To my surprise, the girl who had helped me earlier was here as well. I believed her name was May. She gave me a small wave. It's starting to feel like a festivity. We should have neighborhood get-togethers like these more often. Oh, right, this is... She turned and frowned in my direction while trying to remember a name she hadn't asked me for. Scott. I'm Scott. Right, Scott. He moved in nearby recently, I think, so I thought we should invite him in as well. Certainly, it is nice to see you. No, I'm not really... Oh, right, give me a second. She rushed into the kitchen and came out with steaming dishes of food. I could make out different kinds of meat, baked potatoes, and more. My stomach gave off a deep growl, and my mouth began to water. Any thought of honesty about my origin was gone. The other visitors started piling food onto their plates, and I followed suit. As I devoured it and life came back to my body, I let my eyes wander over the others. Everyone seemed to be tense, especially Sabrina and Frederick. Their movements were rather stiff. Every now and then they threw glances each other's way, glances that seemed to indicate mistrust. Sabrina seemed to especially be eyeing the cup that Frederick was drinking out of. Every now and then, when they'd notice each other's looks, they'd put on a fake smile. May seemed like she hadn't planned to be here in the first place. Was she dragged into it just like I was? As I was cleaning my plate of its scraps, something important flashed into my mind. Excuse me, would you mind if I used your phone? Sabrina tisked. I'm afraid I don't have one. I never cared for those buggers. She looked over to Frederick. Maybe he can use yours. Of course, I can show you to my house once we're ready to go. I gave off a sigh of relief and thanked Frederick. He waved his hand in the air. No problem at all. Please excuse me for one moment, though. He shuffled out of the room, presumably toward the bathroom. All right, I'll make some more tea. She scooped up Frederick's cup and left me alone with May. I cleared my throat and nodded in May's direction. Thank you again for lending me your phone. I did appreciate that. You're welcome. I hope you will have more luck with the landline. Yeah, I hope so too. And I guess that was the end of the conversation. Perhaps she felt uncomfortable speaking to a weird, smelling stranger. I'm going to go wash my dishes. And there she went. The other two were taking quite a while. I used the opportunity to let my eyes wander around the room. The walls were dressed with paintings of all kinds, pictures of nature, as well as more abstract drawings. A framed piece of paper and a photograph that was standing in the drawer beneath it caught my eye. The former seemed to be an art degree, the latter a picture of Frederick and Sabrina when they were younger. They were standing somewhere that could be a university campus. Both had genuine smiles on their faces. It seemed like their friendship went back quite a bit. Hey! Whoa! Did she sneak up behind me? I thought I had a clear view of the kitchen entrance. I think I heard some rumbling coming from downstairs. It'd probably be a good idea to check it out in case Sabrina hurt herself. Oh, well, Sabrina has been gone for quite a while. Maybe something did happen to her. Perhaps I should take a look. What about Frederick? May's face slightly tensed up as she heard his name. Frederick is still occupied. Occupied? The way she said his name sounded almost hostile, but she sounded convincingly confident either way. I felt May's eyes follow me to the basement. I squinted down the stairs. It was almost pitch black. I swallowed back my nerves and carefully crept down into the darkness. Maybe I should have called out to Sabrina, but something told me not to. Why was she down here? Why didn't she tell us that she wanted to make more tea? I managed to reach the bottom stair and peeked around the corner. There, I saw her kneeling by lamplight in front of a large cage. A basket of the strange plants sat beside her. There, it's all right. Take a good sniff of the cup. We need to hurry, okay? I know that he's growing another one. I know he sent one after their parents. I'll avenge them and get rid of my biggest rival in one go. She held Frederick's cup to the bars. Something in her voice disturbed me. Whatever was going on, I wanted no part of it. I returned to the living room as quietly as I could. There you are. All ready to go? Upon hearing Frederick's loud voice, I jumped. What I had seen in the basement had made me anxious. I took a quick look around and saw that May was already gone. How convenient. Sure, I'm ready. Leaving already? I just made some more tea. I turned to see Sabrina standing in the living room entrance with a practiced smile. Sorry, dear, I'm just not young enough to stay out late like we used to. She put on a playful pout. Oh, you do wound me. Come by again. You know you're welcome any time. We bid our farewells and set out into the cold night. I was glad to leave. What I had seen was still nagging on my mind. Frederick might be in danger. I had to tell him. I hesitated. How was I supposed to tell him when I, myself, wasn't sure what I had seen? But I collected myself and went for it. To my surprise, he wasn't nearly as upset at Sabrina as I thought he would be. He actually seemed to be more upset at me. I think you should not have snooped around in the house of someone who invited you over. I was left perplexed. What just happened? I thought I was warning him, but instead I've been scolded like a child. His face relaxed and he gave me his usual smile. It seemed slightly pained this time. I suppose there's been no harm done. Perhaps he just didn't believe me. I couldn't blame him. I noticed more and more vacant houses as we crept through the town. Some were boarded up. Doors had been left wide open. Why are there so many empty houses here? These houses have been vacant for a while now. I was sure that I passed by here earlier, but I didn't notice any abandoned buildings back then. An uneasy feeling started to fester inside of me. Here we are. We stopped before a house that looked much like every other house in this town. He stepped inside. I hesitated at the entrance before trailing behind him. Come on in. No need to be shy. Do you want something to drink? No, thanks. Frederick hesitantly grunted and led me down the hallway. I only wanted to use the phone and get out. Everything that had happened today had me on edge. But what if I still couldn't reach anyone? Where would I go? I was balancing a fine line between hope and despair. The phone call would be what would topple me in either direction. All right, here you are. The phone seemed rather old-fashioned, but at least it had buttons instead of a rotary dial. I picked up the receiver and tried a number. Am I doing something wrong? There's no dial tone. Huh? Let me see. He took the receiver from my hand and pressed a few buttons. He let out a disappointed sigh. Not again. Those damn rodents keep getting to my cables. I'll go take a look at it. Feel free to make yourself at home. In case you get thirsty. He fetched a small bottle of soda from the kitchen, gave it to me, and went into the basement. It seemed like I wouldn't be able to leave quite so soon. Oh, I didn't mean to skip that, but it was once I held the soda in my hand, I did start to get thirsty. I took a sip and thought about what to do next. I could stay here and wait, or I could take a look around. However, that's next time's adventure. And, I mean, I think you know what option I'm gonna pick. I think you know. Thank you very much for watching. I'm intrigued where this is going. I feel like there's a lot of different things going on that I'm like, is it this person doing this thing? Is it a town thing? Is it a random plants doing this thing? Is everything involved in the same plot, or are there multiple? Like, I have many questions, as usual. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to check out my channel. I have a variety of horror content from, more Mycorrhiza, various longer and shorter horror games, the occasional recreating a horror game location in The Sims, and I also like to stream over on Twitch, which is a sprinkle more variety. But I hope you're having a better day than poor Scott. Once again, instead of Cruise Scott, it's now Plant Scott. Hope you're having a better day than Plant Scott. And I will see you. Goodbye!